Welcome to the No Clue Podcast. I'm one of your hosts. I'm Tyler.
Mike.
We're back. Monday morning after two spectacular series have finished, two game sevens, which I wonder how many people even predicted. Not many of these.
The second round's officially over. We are about to head into the conference finals.
Yep. Two record-setting games yesterday. Actually, let's start with the Mavs and the Thunder first.
Okay.
And then we'll talk about yesterday's games together. Okay. Dallas took down the Oklahoma City Thunder. That was in 6 games.
Yeah.
Who did you have winning this? I don't remember.
I had Dallas in 7, I believe.
Okay. Yeah. I had Dallas in 6. Why were we, I won't say confident because we both had them going, 6+ games. But why do you think we picked Dallas? Why did you pick Dallas?
I thought they'd be able to impose their identity a little bit more.
Yeah.
I thought their depth was a little more meaningful than OKC. Yeah. I thought their two best players control the game a little bit better.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not like the role player thing is the drastic difference.
Yeah.
The other stuff was kind of marginal. I just thought it would be a slight advantage for Dallas that they'd eventually capitalize on, and in a way they did.
Yeah, I think they did because I felt the same. I felt that Dallas is kind of more aware of where they get their other points from than OKC is. I think OKC knows is Shea is J-Dub. And then beyond that, I think it's kind of a toss-up, and it's kind of on a night-to-night basis, and that's really tough in the playoffs. I mean, and not that I don't think they could figure that out. Maybe next year somebody will step up and be that third, guaranteed third option. Because now they kind of do a feel-out thing with Chet every night. It's like, hey, is Chet gonna, have a big game tonight? Early in the second quarter, they realize he's not. And then they kind of just pretend like he's not there for, the rest of the game. But
yeah,
Dallas, they kind of know. All right, it's us. It's the two guards. Then it's PJ. Then we always have the centers there, and then they kind of get lucky if Josh Green or Exum has big games. So, go ahead.
It's just weird for me with OKC because they played well. Yeah, they just couldn't, some of the things I thought they could utilize to take advantage of the series, they didn't sustain.
Like what?
SGA and Jalen Williams would create switches a lot, but they wouldn't attack them every time.
Mm-hmm.
And it was like they didn't want to almost ball hog to make sure guys are touching the basketball, which of the teams left in the playoffs, they're probably the only team I don't want to pass it around too much.
Right. Because their role players are really inexperienced, in comparison to everyone else.
And it showed in the last couple games where the role players really didn't know what to do.
Mm-hmm.
It's a lot of rush shots, a lot of bad drives, a lot of not seeing the kick out when it's there, not seeing the extra pass when it's there.
Mm-hmm.
And I wanted SGA and J-Dub to take more command in those moments.
Mm-hmm.
And they just it just slightly wasn't enough compared to what Dallas was doing with Kyrie and Luka.
Yeah. And I think Dallas has emerged, and we mentioned this really early in the season, that they know who has emerged as specialists. And I can't really say anyone on OKC is a specialist. It's just like, hey, maybe Casey Wallace is shooting well tonight. Maybe Isaiah Joe gives us 4 threes. And when you pass around to guys like that who kind of have to, you're kind of forcing them to create for themselves, and it really shouldn't be when your two best creators are out there.
Yeah, to me though, I'm frustrated that OKC couldn't sustain some of the stuff, but Dallas became complete almost over the course of the series.
Mm-hmm. It was a good test for them.
Yeah, and like they really had to pull out everything they could do well in order to win. You know what I mean?
Yeah, they did.
Like this was as complete of a team win for a series as they could probably have, I think.
I agree.
Where Kyrie and Luka were great at controlling the games, especially in the wins, but
Mm-hmm.
they weren't lights out, you know, in all the wins and all the games.
They weren't.
This
Nope.
team struggled, and they found in the past, specifically the last conference finals run they had,
Yeah.
like Dallas's role players would help in the way they helped all season.
Mm-hmm.
You look over the course of the series, Lively started making good kickout decisions. Like Gafford started making good kickout decisions. PJ Washington became a matchup defender.
Yeah.
Derek Jones became like a consistent floor spacer.
Yep.
I mean, when your role players are clicking on things they're not even specializing in,
Mm-hmm.
how are you supposed to beat that?
Yeah. Your role players have to do the same thing.
Exactly. And OKC doesn't really have the structure to do that.
They don't. They don't. And
That's
they're so
why I
small.
that's why I was when we talked about the series, like to me it was a 2v2, but OKC had to win the 2v2 for them to have a chance.
Mm-hmm.
Dallas, as you saw, Dallas is room for error because they're very complete, they're very deep, and they're very well coached.
Yeah. Yep. And the coach is very aware of their talents too.
Yes. I mean, you put two guards with a Hall of Fame guard, like that's a recipe for success.
And then you have your bigs being trained by Tyson Chandler, who championship center, defensive player of the year, and you see it. You like automatically
Lively
see
was
it.
literally transforming into Tyson Chandler in the last game.
He was, yeah.
Like
Last 2
literally
games.
play for play, move. He almost moves like him.
He does. He does. And you can see it. And then Kid with the lobs, it's, I'm sure those guys work together on where the lobs should be thrown, what position the guys should be in to catch them, where they should kind of cut back door. They
Let me ask
definitely
you
work
this
on it. They
before
work
we
on the
move
play
on,
style.
and this will kind of be we'll move on after this. What's the play style change OKC needs? Like, obviously the off-season stuff we'll talk about later on, but what are they missing, like, as far as how they're playing that kept them from winning the series, you think?
So what are they missing, you're saying, for their play
Yes,
style?
just as far as how they're playing.
So as far as play style goes for them, I think that they're missing some versatility in like where the ball goes when they get stopped. Like you mentioned this off air, but when they don't have a shot, it just automatically goes to the corner for a three. There's like no other option. Or like a long wing kick out. There's no other option.
Or
If
a
they
late
had
ISO that's really stagnant.
Yeah, or another ISO, yeah. And that's just I can't think of any other team that does that and like that's what they're supposed to do. And like I don't know. I don't see any other team doing that successfully. Most of the other teams have at least something, another way to score. Like Dallas has. Okay, we get stopped. We have a lob. We have good screeners, good rollers. I mean, Chet is their only screen and roll guy. He's the only pick and roll guy.
Yeah.
The other Jalen Williams took a lot of shots, a lot of threes because he was getting kickouts too. Like it's almost like they try to do the Milwaukee thing, but they don't have anyone as dominant going to the basket as Milwaukee. Shea likes to take elbow jump shots. When the lane is open, he doesn't get to the basket, so then they have nobody to get rebounds. I think that their spacing is good, but if you're not gonna capitalize on the advantages of the spacing, then I think you're kind of limiting yourself. I feel like that was a weird way to say it, but it is kind of hard to describe.
Yeah, because I was thinking like, I'm trying to visualize something they could do that doesn't include improving the roster.
Yeah.
And to me, like they kind of peaked as far as how good they could be.
Yeah, they might have. Yeah.
You know, that's why I'm so frustrated. Even though SGA and J Dub kind of had good series, to me, like it was they should have tried to have great series. You see what I mean?
Yeah.
Like they try to match Dallas's depth, and that's that's a losing battle. It's like matching. It's like trying to run with Indiana, which we'll talk about.
It's a losing battle, especially because where like the depth coming in is different positions. Like if OKC's depth was big, they could try to match it, but you can't match four bigs coming off the bench with four guards. It's just can't do it.
And when your one big is getting eaten alive on the glass, like
Eaten alive.
There has to be a collective effort to hack, to crash down. Like OKC's got good overall like guard size.
Yeah.
And the guys are just watching Chet get abused. He's a rookie. I mean, he's obviously going to need help. I mean, they're lucky that it took 2 rounds for them to figure that out.
Yeah. They're lucky Dallas even dropped a couple games to them.
Yeah. But I thought another thing is for them, like, they looked a lot tougher during the season. They got manhandled on the glass. Guys got to the rim. Like, did anybody on Dallas have a problem getting to the rim?
Not really.
Maybe Hardaway Jr. because he was coming off an injury.
Yeah.
Everybody else
he still got there a few times.
Yeah, everybody got to attack. I saw more toughness from them during the regular season that didn't translate.
I agree with that. Yeah. More fire in general too. It seemed like they look like they thought they were the underdogs in this series.
Yeah. I just think like Dallas shouldn't be big enough to abuse you inside.
Right.
An advantage, I understand, but they were, I mean, it was just relentless extra possessions.
And they aren't that skilled. I mean, their bigs aren't like high skilled guys. No, no disrespect to them, but it's not like it's Hakeem in there. It's just some athletic guys.
Yeah.
So we'll get to the Western Conference Finals in a little bit. We'll finish with the big series. We're going to skip the Celtics and Cavs series because we kind of already talked about that being over. Donovan Mitchell missed the last 2 games. There's just no way that was going to go right after that.
There's going to be some tough Cleveland conversations over the summer. And maybe based on what they do, maybe they'll be interesting. I don't know.
We'll see.
I'm trying to stay positive on them.
Yeah. Okay. Staying in the East, the Knicks. The Knicks have had more injuries in the playoffs than I've ever seen in my life. 4 starters and 1 bench player, 1 6-man, all injured, and they have officially lost to the Indiana Pacers. And still a very intense game at times. Very intense series. So much fire in this series. Great games, back and forth. The only home loss was Game 7. Yeah, I mean, they fought really, really hard.
Indiana was lights out in this last game.
Record-setting field goal percentage.
Like, there's something to be said about the Knicks, maybe slacking defensively early, but Indiana just didn't miss.
Yeah, I mean, even wide open guys don't shoot 70% from the field. Even without defense, that just doesn't happen.
You're kicking out Naismith, cash. Shepherd comes in, cash. There's only so much you can rotate on.
Yeah, I think Naismith started the game out 8 for 8. I don't know how he finished, but he was 8 for 8 at one point. TJ McConnell was the MVP of the series, as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah.
Siakam looked good. And the funny thing is, the big 3, Halliburton hit a lot of threes, but their big three really didn't they really weren't what killed the Knicks. It was everyone else that was fantastic.
As soon as Nebhard stopped guarding Jalen Brunson, he started cooking on offense.
Mm-hmm.
Like literally immediately.
Yeah.
And that to me, the big picture here is Indiana. Like New York, as you said, New York broke down. They came into this series not healthy.
Yep.
I mean, they came in not healthy and they broke down even further as the series progressed. So the fact that they even took it to 7, which is exactly what I predicted, I just, I chose to go with my heart and thought the Knicks could sneak it out.
If the Knicks were healthy, it would have been a different story. You might have been right.
Of course. But the conversation for me with Indiana is you can make the flip side argument where, Indiana has made a, fraudulent conference finals run because the two teams they're playing are broken down. But look at how they're like establishing their identity in all these games.
Depth.
Like I thought Indiana would have the toughest time to translate their identity to the playoffs. And they've gotten better.
Yeah.
Like they're running more than they did in the regular season. It's like it's not just their backups. Siakam is constantly looking to run. Naismith, Turner are all running. Their bench was already spectacular in the regular season. They're by far the best bench in the playoffs. It's not even close.
Yeah.
I mean, and maybe even if personnel-wise they're not the best, they've played absolutely lights out.
Yeah, yeah.
I mean,
Dallas is the only one who can make an argument, and I would pick Indiana over Dallas.
Obi had a good game every game. Like, I literally didn't see him play poorly.
Yeah.
I just think Indiana has really validated their core group. Not just their core group, but their roster in general.
Yeah.
It's a lot more like the concerns I'm having with OKC's play style. I had a lot of that in the regular season.
Yeah.
Indiana, I'm starting to see the building blocks for like some of the solutions to the concerns.
Yeah, one big thing Indiana does is they have clear positions. Their depth comes in, their bench, everyone has a role, and they come in and they fill the role. In contrast to OKC, where like I don't know what position literally anyone who comes off the bench plays. Hayward, I don't know. Isaiah Joe, I have no idea. Cason Wallace, he's like a small forward.
Hayward got benched, by the way.
Yeah, it would just guys just come in, and then even the other Jalen Williams, I guess he's a center. I guess just because he's big and strong, but he barely plays like it.
He's like 6'5".
Yeah, so it's with in contrast to OKC, Indiana comes in and you know exactly what Obi Toppin is coming in to do. He's the utility forward. TJ McConnell comes in, he's a pure point guard. Ben Shepherd comes in, he takes jump shots and nothing else. Isaiah Jackson comes in and he looks like the most athletic player like in the league sometimes at center. And then, I mean, they have guys they don't even play that could come in and help them. And Naismith, he comes in and out. I mean, he always starts, but sometimes he's like more with the second unit than the first unit.
Yeah.
And he's a clear spread the floor forward, guard forward. I mean, everyone, you know what everyone is going to give you every night. It's hard to check because you just don't know who's going to play better.
They're playing so complete. It's very similar to Dallas. Like they're a different team, but how they're progressing and improving over the course of the playoffs.
Yeah.
Like they're building themselves into a team that we could believe could compete with Boston. Just like, Dallas has kind of built themselves and played their way into us really being convinced that they could compete next round.
Yeah.
I'm really impressed, man. I'm a little more impressed on the big three because I even though they didn't carry the series, they played well together in the same games.
They did, finally.
The first win, like, essentially everybody played well. And they got a little lucky. Nebhard had to hit the really tough shot, but that's playoffs.
Yeah.
Like, that's another thing. They've shown an ability to fight. They could come back. They could hold on to a lead. They're not one-dimensional. They could impose their identity. They could play your way and slightly match up. Again, they're not flawless,
Mm-hmm.
but they've improved on all their weaknesses already in just the first 2 series.
The other thing really impressive about their roster, everyone on the team is really inside out. Like, they can all go to the basket. They can all shoot.
Yes.
Siakam has probably the best mid-range on the team, but everyone else is great at attacking the basket, and you cannot leave them open. And they defend both ways also.
Yeah. And I
So,
just think, I guess, to keep it the comparison to OKC, because they're both young teams that have emerged quickly.
yeah.
If you're gonna kind of live and die by the drive and kick, you gotta have guys committed to the drive.
Right.
Like, you gotta have guys committed to getting inside. Like you said, there's almost nobody on this team that's one-dimensional.
Yeah.
And if
I
they
can't think
are,
of one.
like Shepherd, he's playing around guys that are like built to maximize his contribution.
Yeah.
Because Shepherd only shoots, TJ McConnell's only in the paint.
Yeah.
So it creates a flawless balance. That's why you see, like, no matter whether they play fast or slow, they're starting to figure out how to get good shots either way.
They are. And to build off that point, when it's like they know when guys are out there how they need to play. Like TJ McConnell, he can spread the floor more. I mean, he doesn't take a lot of threes, but he can. But he knows that if Shepard's out there, he needs to get into the paint and see what happens. Same thing with Halliburton. Halliburton will take a lot of threes with his starting lineup, but when the bench comes in, he drives a little bit more. He tries to get into the paint a little bit more. He draws defense a little more. So guys like Toppin can get cuts. Toppin can get threes. Isaiah Jackson can get lobs. Shepard can get threes.
Yeah, I mean,
they're just very well coached. It looks like they practice really well. They're one of the teams that you can see that they practice.
Yeah.
Some of these other teams, I'm like, these guys look like they only play together in the games.
They
it's
only like walk through shit. That's it.
Yeah, like AAU. We travel. I just met this dude yesterday, and we're in a tournament, national tournament together. That's how some of the other NBA teams are. But the Pacers, they look like they had a full week of practice before every game, which is impressive. Shout out to Rick Carlisle for that.
And my last main praise for the Pacers, and this is probably the biggest thing going into next round.
Mm-hmm.
The blueprint on Brunson to contain him that
Mm-hmm.
Philly tried and failed.
Yeah,
they pulled off successfully, and not just because he literally broke down, but
mm-hmm.
they didn't just match up well with him. They actually coordinated rotations and help side so he doesn't live in the paint. I mean, I've been complaining about this for multiple years. Brunson is a 6 foot, not that athletic of a guard. If you can't keep him out the paint, your defense is not good.
Yeah. Yeah.
And Philly struggled with this. And Philly, defensively seems like a better roster than Indiana, but we see now that's not really the case.
No, it's not. And part of it, well, I will say I'll shoot the Knicks a little bit of bail is that when some of the other wings were hurt, there was like no reason to like leave the paint.
Yeah. Yeah.
But to your point, they contain him a lot better because I think that they devoted someone to him. And Philly, like, for some reason, they never commit to saying, hey, you lock him up. It's like, or whoever's checking Jalen Brunson, make sure you don't do this. Indiana is like, no, Nembhard, TJ McConnell, you stay with Brunson wherever he goes. You wear his jersey wherever he goes.
Yeah.
And it just, you could see it bothering him the whole game.
The depth gives you the ability to do that.
It does, yeah. Yeah.
I mean, Philly, part of the reason they failed is because you get in foul trouble, now the plan failed.
Mm-hmm.
Indiana gets in foul trouble, next man up, let's go.
Yeah, they don't care about foul trouble at all.
Not at all, bro. And they foul hard. Like, they got guys playing minimal minutes that are playing great, like Isaiah Jackson. He quickly took the dude with the glasses. He just took his clock.
Yeah, Jalen Smith.
Which they're both kind of similar and totally different at the same time, which I can't really explain.
Yeah.
But again, like Isaiah Jackson played like 6 to 10 minutes a night, and I felt his impact every time.
Yeah. Yep. I'm not gonna dog Miles McBride, but for those listening,
I'll be honest, I didn't like Thibs. Thibs kind of played into Indiana's hand the last couple games.
He did.
Like, we don't want to run. Indiana's clearly better at running. So not only are we going to walk it up, we're going to play like Miami plays, where we're going to fucking waste the clock. We're going to, try to slow down the game as much as possible. But you went to the wrong extreme because your offense was so stagnant as the series progressed.
Yeah, it was.
Like to me, DiVincenzo saved this offense from looking inept multiple games.
Just by hitting big shots?
Just by hitting shots. It wasn't him, in the system. It was just him cooking.
Hartenstein went out last game scoring 0 points. Miles McBride
Hartenstein second half of the series, he struggled too.
Yeah, he did. Miles McBride 4 for 14, 0 for 6 from 3,
and
minus 19.
One series you could argue as a fluke, right? And you're guarding Joel Embiid. I could forgive you for being in foul trouble every game.
Yeah.
Hartenstein, are you just a hack box? Like, why are we going for every steal?
Yeah, and I know that the bench guys for the Knicks, like the real deep bench guys, which is kind of where they were, are not very good. But, they're still getting paid. You got to just try something, man. When you're in the trenches like that, I don't care. Jericho, go foul somebody hard or something. Like, do something. We can't have
Jericho was so bad. Jericho was so bad at his limited minutes. Thibs just couldn't. And I'll defend him on him. He looked atrocious.
I get it. I absolutely get it. When the other team is like 11 deep and we're still with our like 6 guys, like come on.
It's just
you can't win like that.
Game 7, you're literally like game 6 and 7, you're watching a full roster start to destroy a roster that's falling apart.
Yeah, exactly.
And Thibs is just like, well, guys, like we got here how we got here. Like, let's just go out swinging. Like, Thibs, guys are too hurt to swing.
Yeah, let someone have a moment. Let Daquan Jeffries come in and like surprise us with 2 big threes. Like, I'm cool with I would be cool with that if that's how it was. I'm much more disappointed in Brunson breaking his hand, Hart playing with that torn ab, OG Anunoby not making it past 4 minutes. Come on, we got to do something. Yeah, but I get it. I understand. If he did it when they were healthy, I'd be upset. But he waited too long to put Burks in the game. Burks went off 26 and 27 minutes. He played fantastic.
He was eating, dude. Playing in traffic, scoring through contact. I'm like, Alec Burks has never done this in his life.
He was unstoppable. But, he acted like, but he didn't earn it in other games. Bro, once he came in the game and had like 6 straight points. He never would have came out of the game if I was coaching. That would have been it for the night. Like he's in there. But I get it. You do try to go with the guys you've been with, but for some reason,
man, there's going to be so much pressure on Julius Randle next year.
Yeah, I mean,
bro, the New York basketball was ready to go to the conference finals. Like, I know you were. I had this game on 10 minutes before it started, and my God, was New York ready to go to the conference finals?
Yeah,
like I thought. I'll be honest. I thought the Denver fans were more humbled to be in game 7 than New York was.
Yeah.
which was just crazy. I'm like, dude, Indiana has taken control coming into the game. You got two guys coming in off injury. Like the signs weren't good.
Right. They were ready.
Yeah.
But shout out to the Pacers. Congratulations, Eastern Conference Finals. Two teams so far that, I mean, this both conference finals are pretty surprising. The teams that made it, probably to most.
I mean, Boston's not.
Yeah, other than Boston, everyone else is probably surprised a lot of people. Again, record-setting.
Boston has had as bullshit of a run as Indiana, if we want to hate on them,
Boston has
the same. Yeah, Boston's had the same luxury that India's gotten both rounds,
and they've lost games. Like,
yes,
yeah, they've lost to those teams, and almost. I mean, I'm not going to go too deep into it, but
that's why I'm very excited that it's an up and coming team that got here with Boston.
Yeah. The Cavs were right there in even the games they lost, they were right there.
I agree. But like the Cavs, a lot of the other teams that aren't here, and hindsight Henry, of course, but they had very exposable flaws. Like Indiana, because they're emerging, there's a level we don't even really know like that they could get to.
Yeah, yeah.
So I'm excited for this series.
Yeah, me too. You want to go ahead and talk about, do your predictions now, or you want to wait?
We could predict. I mean, it starts like what, tomorrow or the day after?
Starts tomorrow.
Yeah, we could predict. I'm gonna die on the Boston hill. I'll pick Boston in 6 games.
Boston in 6.
I'm gonna talk about the next series soon, and that's like I was wrong on that, but I'm totally okay with being wrong.
Okay.
With Boston, so many things could happen. Predicting is a waste of time, honestly.
Yeah. Yeah, Boston, but that's a negative. You're saying that in negative connotation to Boston, right?
Yes.
Yeah. Just for people to know, you're saying that because
Boston could win in 4. They could lose in 5 to 6.
I got them losing in 6.
Wow. You have them losing in 6 games?
6 games. And I'm saying that because I'm seeing the games that Boston is close in. Bro, they were close in a game without Donovan Mitchell, Jared Allen, and Karis LeVert. The Cavs almost beat them in that game. And they really, they were like one player away from beating them, a good player. If LeVert was there, they might have beat him, which is like gross. Like Indiana's beating the Knicks by 20, and Knicks only missing, with the Knicks only missing like Randall, and then the Cavs missing 3 of their best scorers, and are right there with Boston, and they beat Boston easily in the game they beat them. The Heat games were a little too close sometimes. I just don't think Boston is that good. I just don't think they play good basketball. Don't get me wrong, the roster is amazing. Sometimes when they are playing well, I'm like, I can't believe the NBA let this roster get this good. Sometimes I definitely feel that way. And then I'm like, man, and they have Porzingis. Like, this roster is outrageous. But then I see how they play. I see the shots they take. I see the turnovers. I see the lack of passing. I see the defense. Their defense is really bad. I know people think it's good because, when they get stops, they get really good fast breaks and they can outscore teams and stuff like that. But the amount of open shots they give up to every team, Miami just missed a bunch of shots. Cavs just missed a bunch of shots. Indiana's not missing all those shots. You can't give them the shots that they give up. Boston normally gives up. So, not that I don't think they can adjust. Not that I don't think that they have more talent.
See, I worry about Indiana because, like, they've contained Brunson, But it's a lot easier to contain Brunson from getting in the paint than it is Jason Tatum, Jaylen Brown, Derek White, and Drew Holiday.
That's true, but Brunson makes it a point to get to the paint. Those other guys, it's like, I think if they think they can shoot over you, they're gonna try to shoot over you. Brunson knows he can't, so Brunson goes and tries to get his bag, his shots.
I'm as negative on you as on the Jays. Yeah. But you're implying like they're just gonna settle for jumpers this whole series. That's not happening. Like
why not?
Naismith is getting eaten alive 1 to 3 games by one of the Jays.
Oh, that's fair. They can still lose, but the problem is they can still lose that way.
That's why predicting Boston, how Boston's gonna play, is like so ridiculous at this point.
It is. I'm not trying to predict how they're gonna play, but I know the things that they do wrong. They do it wrong every game. Like there's always going to be a stretch where they're going to have ridiculous turnovers. Happens every single game. Jaylen Brown is still back to leading the playoffs in turnovers. Surprise! I know that's going to happen. I know Jason Tatum is going to try to shoot in people's face at least for 2 quarters every game. For the whole quarter, he's not going to get into the paint. He's going to take jump shots in Siakam's face, high five threes, and a lot of them might go in. But when they don't, Indiana's scoring immediately on the other end. That's why they have the worst transition defense in the league, because so many of their shots are long rebounds. They had the worst transition defense all season. And who has the best transition team in the league? Indiana.
The signs all point to Indiana. I get it.
Yeah.
But Boston has they have a continuity factor that's like, I guess, unfair to younger teams. And I think they're the most collective offense that Indiana is going to face. Like, I think Indiana's defense is going to decide the series.
Okay.
To me, and that's why I'm so impressed with them, because they've shown both rounds that they're like really focused on it. They're trying to make it a point. They're trying to be a two-way team, and this is going to be their ultimate test.
So you got their defense. I got their shooting. I think they shoot well.
To me, the scenario for me is they, make the Jays settle and make the Jays play sloppy basketball. And a lot of it is, the Jays being just dumb.
Mm-hmm.
But there's still a level of IQ to keeping them in front, not letting them get drives. That I think if Indiana could execute, I mean, we're looking at a team that's a decent favorite to win the championship. Like, I will be looking at them as a legitimate two-way team that's potentially the favorite going into the finals.
I agree. I'm with you on that. My thing is, if they shoot well, and I mean shoot like they did
Game 7
in this last game. No, I don't mean 67%. I'm just talking about threes too. I'm not talking about all field goals. Because the inside field goals is where Celtics usually do play good defense. They don't really let guys get mid-range shots. But I think that if they shoot well from 3, they're gonna have a really good advantage against Boston. They're gonna have a really good chance.
It's gonna be some wild scoring games in this round.
Yeah, there is. Definitely.
There's gonna be some like 140 to 145 games. I can already picture it.
Yep. Definitely.
Historic number of threes incoming. Like, it's happening.
For sure. Yeah, the historic number of threes for sure. But Boston keeps taking all those threes and missing them. Indiana's going to get buckets. Toppin's going to have some crazy dunks in the series. Like, that's coming.
I do think, like, Indiana, when both teams are settling in their respective moments, Indiana has shown more self-awareness to, like we don't want to keep settling. We want to, attack and get inside, which again, all the signs point to Indiana, but I just know how Boston has been coasting, and I'm trusting their continuity, which could mean disaster for me again.
Yeah, I mean, it's just all guesses. We never know. It is what it is. But
I mean,
we'll
there's
see
so
what
many
happens. It's gonna be
factors in
exciting.
basketball. I could literally talk for like 6 hours on both teams and come to a neutral conclusion.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. Boston is a think piece in their own right.
100%.
Okay, now to the best series of the playoffs, probably. No disrespect to the Knicks, both their series were fantastic, but Minnesota Timberwolves versus the Denver Nuggets, the defending champions. 7 games. Minnesota only 98-90 in this last game, by the way. Very low scoring game for two very talented teams. Where do you want to start with the series?
Where's a good starting point for this?
It's kind of tough, right?
Jamal Murray and Jokic are a lot more guardable than I thought.
Okay.
Because maybe it's just because we had a couple years of them, nobody really coordinating the defense well against them for the most part. And some of it was them obviously being incredible at times. They won a championship last year.
Yeah.
But Minnesota showed like finally. I mean, we've been saying this for years. Anybody who's seen how the Nuggets have lost in the past has said that they're especially the two best players are limited athletically. And finally, for 7 games, somebody made it a point to take advantage of that.
Yeah.
I mean, the Lakers, I'm looking at you. What were you doing? And I know, like, Anthony Edwards didn't always have a good balance of how he attacked.
Yeah.
But the roster did. Like, the roster, as a mindset, when they got the ball inside, they weren't always looking to kick out. Guys were looking to score.
Yeah.
That, to me, I thought Minnesota showed a level of poise, a level of maturity that I couldn't fathom they had. Because this series, they could have won this series on many occasions. They could have lost this series on many occasions.
Yeah.
And for them to kind of push through the ups and downs, find themselves, like find out where they really excel. Like I thought they took the road Dallas did as far as like their own improvement, but it was a much tougher process for them. And that to me makes them so dangerous. Like clearly their room for error is extremely high because they're so talented. But now you see, like, now they could really coordinate their offense. They could coordinate their defense. It's not just athleticism. It's not just size.
Yeah.
I mean, the Wolves have essentially become the favorite to win a championship now. And not just because they beat the defending champs, but how they did it. What do you think?
I think that the Timberwolves defense has shown the entire league a new level of defense. I think a lot of teams try to get the length, try to get, dogs, try to get all these things that enhance a defense, but it really just comes down to grit and like being able to, help and recover very quickly and swarm and double and be ready to block shots and just have a presence everywhere. They had a presence on every level of defense. Gobert was always a presence inside. Jaden McDaniels was like, it felt like at some points Jaden McDaniels was guarding everybody. Like he was a presence all over the court. Nickeil Alexander-Walker was a presence full court. I felt him like in my living room, full court.
Anthony Edwards too.
Yeah, and Ant was just a high level competitor. I think a lot of these teams come into Denver playing the Nuggets as feeling like the underdog. These guys felt like they were the top dogs. They look like the top dogs in this series. They look like the favorites. And they started the series out looking like that,
That's why
making
it's
it.
so disrespectful, not to cut you
Uh-huh.
off, but it's so disrespectful to say the Wolves shock or stun the Nuggets in game 7. Like, it got to 7. What do you mean? They beat them 3
Right.
times. How is it a shock at this? I was shocked after game 2.
Yeah, I was gonna say the first 2 games was stunning.
That was the stun. The first game
Yeah.
was kind of like whatever, and then the second game, Minnesota's like, no, we're this good.
The Nuggets coming back was stunning.
Yeah. So to me,
Yeah, I
it's
mean,
like the Wolves have so clearly emerged, and it's so disrespectful to be like, oh, like they shock the defending champs. Like, no, they shock the defending champs, showing them that they're as good, if not better than them.
right. Right. Well, and this is the one thing that I have never liked about the Nuggets offense. I know for the listeners, I'm way more negative off air about the Nuggets than I am on air. On air, I try to keep it neutral on the Nuggets, but off air, I'm probably the biggest Nuggets hater in the world. But main thing I don't like about the Nuggets play style is I don't like that only Jokic like does stuff every night, like plays the same game every night. When there's games where Gordon plays well, they win. Next game, Gordon gets like no touches. They just stop passing it to him. Or the next game, Gordon has to have to hunt for his own shots, which has never been his game. It's very. Some games KCP gets a lot of shots. Some games you don't notice KCP out there. Some games Michael Porter Jr. like takes over with his shot attempts. Some games it's like we may pass it to him, we may not. The only 2 mainstays is Jokic and Murray, and I think that you can't beat the Timberwolves with just 2 guys being your like contributing every night. You just can't do it. They have so much balance with their scoring. Because Alexander Walker was fantastic in the beginning of the series, and he shot over in this last game. Anthony Edwards was 6 for 24 in this last game, and they still managed to, beat the Nuggets, but with a record-setting comeback, by the way, halftime comeback. It's interesting that Murray was very up and down in this series. Why do you think that is? Do you think that was defense, or do you think it was just him, his health, maybe?
I disagree on the notion that like if Jokic and Murray played better in the losses, they could have won this series.
That's true.
So to me, this is where I was shocked. Where
that was because
I was so confident in my belief on Denver because even when Jokic and Murray aren't shooting great, they're completely controlling the game. And this is where the credit is entirely to the Wolves' defense. They put so much work into making more so Murray uncomfortable.
Yeah.
That the rhythm just wasn't there. Like there was a constant struggle for Denver to get their, main scorer going. But because it wasn't easy like it normally is, now there's like a weird struggle to force him touches where it never really felt forced before.
Felt desperate in this last game.
Exactly.
Last 2 games.
It was throughout the series. There was a lot of moments throughout the series where Denver, like you said, they could have gone to Aaron Gordon, no problem. He played good for like essentially 6 games.
Yeah.
MPJ could have contributed. With him, it was a little both sides. Like he didn't play well a lot. He kind of settled.
Yeah.
But to me, again, it's the Wolves' commitment to making Murray uncomfortable. And Murray had to work to bring the ball up. He had to work on every handoff, every screen and roll, every drive, every step back. Like there was such a commitment to making him uncomfortable.
Yeah, they knew how they could be beaten, and it was through Murray.
I mean,
it definitely was. But to your point, if they played better in the losses, but that's because the role players played really good in those games. The role players did absolutely nothing in this game 7.
Oh, game
Nothing.
7, like I said, nobody played well. I said it all after the game. But
Yeah.
the Nuggets got nothing from anybody.
I know, but I mean, really only MPJ, Michael Porter Jr. got the ball a lot. The other guys were just like they were just kind of standing around out there a lot of the times. And I don't know if that's because how they were playing or the defense, or Jokic really wasn't like drawing defense that well in this game, because they really didn't like leave anybody for Jokic that often. They doubled him sometimes, but they kind of still stayed in the lanes. They didn't like overly commit to getting Jokic away from the basket.
Oh,
And he just wasn't finding the guys.
Simple. I just think Jokic picked a bad time to be cold. And a lot of it was they're also making him work on both ends.
I don't think was he that cold to you?
Bro,
he just shot bad from 3.
0 for 7 before he hit his first 3.
Yeah, I mean, he doesn't
he
always
missed
shoot
a lot
good
of layups that he normally hits, or he normally should hit.
Yeah, they were.
And my thing is he was rushing, specifically in the last game. He was like really trying to force, again, something like with Murray, it feels natural, but the defense is so good, it's starting to feel forced. It was the same thing in this final game. The bigs for the Wolves took so much pride individually, making him like earn buckets.
Yeah, they did.
That Jokic started rushing. He started taking like ill-advised shots where he could have pivoted a little bit more. He could have like maybe looked for an extra kick out. And he was rushing shots. He was rushing the left to right hook all the time.
He was getting. They were playing good D. That's why I said I don't think he was like, he wasn't just off. He was getting locked up.
That's fair.
In a sense, for as much as you can lock up an MVP. I'm not saying
right, but that's like a give and take. As far as the credit goes, I just think Minnesota's defense earned the series, but it was still like. It was extremely close. It was 7 games, and the Nuggets, took control in the 5th game.
Yeah, they did. They absolutely did.
Like, that's the poise. And I'll be honest with you, the poise that the Wolves showed being down 3-2, Michael Malone hasn't. I don't know if he's ever showed that poise. Like,
I don't know.
Of all the people who's been delusionally confident about this team, other than me, Michael Malone's at the top of the list.
Yeah.
I mean, he has like proclaimed their like how offended they are by disrespect and how confident they are, how good they are, how historic they are. And look what happens.
Yeah.
Like there was he lived and died by his 2 best players, and he did nothing to make their game easy.
Yeah, he did nothing to make anyone else's game easier.
Exactly. And in the last half of the series, the most notable things he did was freak out on the refs.
So sometimes this is what my point was earlier, and I didn't bring up Malone, but I'm glad you did. Sometimes it feels like Malone only coaches Jokic and Murray. Like he doesn't even talk to the other guys. The other guys just have to figure it out based on what Murray and Jokic are doing, specifically Jokic. But in the last 2 games, and maybe even game 4, it felt like, Jokic and Murray, you do what you do, and everyone else, you just like play along and see what happens. And then sometimes they get lucky where those guys have like really big nights. Gordon has a really good shooting night. Gordon steps up his effort sometimes, but he doesn't make it easier on anybody but Jokic and Murray most of the time.
Yeah. I mean,
and you can't do, like I said, you just can't beat the Wolves with just 2 guys playing well, because they still combined for 70 points, 69 points in this game. But no one else had double figures.
I was so impressed. The Wolves showed like a 7-game commitment to defense. It's just
it was second half for sure.
This series was so close, and there was times where even the defenses like looked overwhelmed. Like
Mhm.
they're struggling offensively and they can't match up, and like you really don't know what they're gonna do. And there were so many moments this team could have given up and quit. And I've seen them. They did this like last year or the year before. Not last year. Last year they got cooked by the same team, but the year
Yeah.
before when they blew multiple leads
Yeah.
against the Grizzlies, like they just quit. They blew the
Mhm.
20-point lead, build another one, and then just gave up again
Yeah.
in the same game.
Yeah.
So, like, to me, this series is so much about what the Wolves have overcome as far as their own individual struggles, their
So
chemistry struggles,
do you think the Wolves are a better team?
than the Nuggets.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, because they just won, but I like
No, I mean
given
like
an.
in a vacuum, if they never had this series, just in a vacuum, which team is better?
I mean, I still think the Nuggets are a little bit better.
Okay. Gotcha.
I just think the Wolves lived up to all the positive expectations we could have had, and some that we couldn't even expect.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think the Nuggets are much
I
more
mean,
talented.
this was a legacy defining game series for the Wolves front court, and they responded.
They did.
And it wasn't easy. A lot of times it looked doubtful.
And in this game, even in this last game, it looked
Right.
doubtful.
Right.
Biggest halftime comeback in finals. I mean, in playoffs history, or at least Game 7 history. The Towns and Gobert thing. One thing that gave me, and I accurately predicted this series going to 7 with Minnesota winning, but the only reason I felt even confident about Minnesota, and obviously after 2 games, I was like, man, they're not even gonna go to 7
A
here.
lot of people had the sweep.
Yeah, but one thing I was confident about is that the Timberwolves have so much versatility to score, and there's just like no play style that they can't figure out with this roster. And it's really only like this. When I say it's really only the 7 guys. No disrespect to Slow Mo, I love Slow Mo, but it's just the 7 that I think that they can kind of adjust to any play style the other team is doing. If you want to go fast, Gobert and Towns are pretty fast for centers, and they can even go smaller with just one of them in there. And you can go big, they're bigger. You want to shoot threes, they can shoot threes. You want to pound it inside, they can go inside. They just kind of have a way to adjust for any kind of play style.
Yeah.
And the Nuggets kind of do the same thing every night. Basically. They just happen to be, it just depends. They just kind of rely on someone getting hot. And Timberwolves were just not really letting anybody get hot in this series.
But I still
Much.
think it was so important in the most important moments for like Cat and Ant to be aggressive.
Mm-hmm.
I still think their biggest problem is not even really like coaching. Maybe is a weakness for them,
Mm-hmm.
but their problem when they get stagnant is like Ant and Cat allow defenses to play well.
They do.
It's so I'm looking at them and it's like it's not like they're stopping you. You're not testing them.
That happened with Edwards a lot in this
A
series.
lot, man.
And
They
pretty much all their losses.
Yeah, and it's still like I mentioned during the game, like Cat and Ant really don't have chemistry together.
Not much.
Other than like, oh my God, I haven't passed it to you in a while. Here you go. Which there's duos who don't even do that. So that's something.
Mm-hmm.
And there is like a friendship there. They're clearly communicate the post game stuff. They're very self aware about each other.
Yeah.
But like it's just that's their final step.
Mm-hmm.
To me, who's beating them if they figure out the duo. I mean, they figured out. I can't believe this. They figured out the Gobert Cat spacing before they figured out the duo,
Yeah.
which is unfathomable to me.
Yeah.
But like
Yeah.
Gobert I mentioned for Gobert to get off the court a lot of the time, it was
Mm-hmm.
exclusively because of Jokic.
Mm-hmm.
It wasn't like, again, if any other team, he belongs on the court. He's a main reason why they're good.
Yeah.
But it's just the way Jokic was playing from like game 3 to 5.
3 to 5. Yeah.
It just made it look like, you're kind of putting him in better spots than you should.
Mm-hmm.
But again, credit to Gobert. Like so many other years, he quits, he pouts, he fucking just gives up.
Mm-hmm.
And he fucking pushed through. He earned as much respect as I've seen an individual player in years.
This is the best Gobert year I've ever seen overall.
By a fucking
Playoffs.
mile, bro. Oh my, it's not even close.
Yeah, the season, the playoffs, everything. Gobert has been fantastic to me.
I mean, his focus is so much better. His commitment to like what he brings to the team is so
Yep.
obvious.
And I know I'm in the minority. I don't think they give it to him enough. I see
Right.
a lot of times where it's like, yo, just a lot of times they get the screen and roll and they're like a little late to see that he's open. And I'm not
Yeah.
expecting for him to get 15 shots. I'm not saying that, but I'm saying he's in the paint. He's there. I think they're going to have to use him in this next series. We could just segue right into
But I want to
next series.
see, and this is maybe a reach, but take a little flavor from the Nuggets offense, where if there's a problem, Jokic will just cut to the ball, like, and not
Mm-hmm.
like way outside. He'll like find a middle, like somewhere in the middle of the floor to get the ball.
Yeah.
To me, Cat and Gobert could. I'm not asking them to be Jokic, but to really like force good ball movement rather than just stagnant perimeter passing.
Yeah.
Like that's a small thing. I think they can change.
I agree. I I think that this is going to be a coaching battle this next series, Minnesota and Dallas, because I think Kidd is, you know, one of the highest IQ players to ever play basketball. Um, I, I think that he watches these films and he's going to figure out a way to be ready for Anthony Edwards and Towns early. So I think it's going to be kind of tough coming in for the Timberwolves the first two games. Not that the Timberwolves can't do the same thing to Dallas, but I think that Dallas will have less of a problem with what
I think
Minnesota does to them.
I think there's a defensive, maybe not a, but I guess like a situational parallel to Indiana where they've kind of relied on. Indiana has relied on the other rosters being a little limited, so where they can
Yeah,
focus on certain things.
yeah,
The Wolves have relied on their overwhelming athletic advantage
yeah.
in the first two rounds. And you
Hmm.
saw it, you saw some of the struggle. Like, it's not an advantage on Aaron Gordon.
Right.
And to me, the problem is now you're facing a different animal in Luka, where physicality is an advantage for Luka only.
Hmm.
To me, again, they've defended Booker and Jamal really well because of their athleticism and physicality. With Luka, it's gotta be IQ.
Hmm.
Like, it has to be IQ. We gotta sit on the things he loves to do. We have to stay in front. We cannot pick up bullshit fouls. Karl Anthony Towns, good God,
Hmm.
it's still a problem.
Hmm.
But it's like the small physical things where it's not just physical. You're still like using IQ.
Yeah.
They got to stay focused in this series.
They have to keep Kyrie out the middle of the court.
Oh,
If you, if
I
you
don't
give
know if that's
Kyrie,
possible.
yeah, I don't know if it's possible either, but if you give Kyrie the middle of the court, the top of the key, the free throw line, the paint,
It's over.
gonna have a rough time because he's gonna get fouled anytime he wants. He's gonna get a shot anytime he wants. He's got to hope
I
he's off.
actually, I would try to make Kyrie and Luka win the series. which they could and likely will.
Yeah,
But I think like if you get in a team-wide shootout, Dallas's spacing is just better.
it is. Yeah.
It's better. I trust the quality of their three-pointers. I trust the quality of their inside shots.
Mm-hmm.
To me, again, Minnesota has to. This is going to be the first series for them where IQ is going to decide if their defense wins it.
I will say I think Minnesota. I don't think they have to help as much as most teams do on Dallas.
Yeah,
because they're so big. Because they're long and they can recover quickly, and they have Rudy is a dominant defender inside. I don't think that they'll have to like collapse on every drive like most teams do. Like OKC had to collapse every time, and then PJ was wide open or alley to one of the bigs was wide open. I don't think Minnesota's going to have to do that. So I wonder, but they might still do it. But if I was coaching Minnesota, I would not collapse on everyone. I'd just say, if you want to shoot it over Gobert, go ahead and try it. And if that's how they beat us, I mean, that's what I would do. But I'm curious to see how they do that, because I don't think they need to, but I think some teams feel like they need to collapse on Luka, but Luka's going to find somebody wide open.
I'm anticipating Anthony Edwards taking the Luka assignment at some point, if not right away.
Uh-huh.
I am fascinated to see what that looks like.
I think it'll be McDaniels.
I know McDaniels is the favorite, but like he's the guy I'm worried about. You put him on Luka, you're liable to get him in foul trouble in many of the games.
Problem is, I don't want Edwards anywhere near Kyrie. And I don't want McDaniels anywhere near Kyrie. I'll take Edwards on Kyrie. McDaniels, I don't want him anywhere near Kyrie.
I think the Wolves don't match up with this duo nearly as well as the star players they've matched up with so far.
I kind of like Nickeil Alexander-Walker on Kyrie. Obviously, no one can guard Kyrie.
But that's the problem. We like all these guys on one of them, and we hate them on the other. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Jaden McDaniels.
And Dallas is going to spam switches. Like, Dallas is going to force you to switch. They're going to force you to, like, really coordinate the screens.
Yeah.
And I don't know. I mean, they coordinated it relatively well against Denver, but Dallas is more committed to specifically creating the switch.
If McDaniels gets on Kyrie, it is fresh off the smoker barbecue chicken. It's going to be really bad.
Dude, McDaniels really got to lock in because he's going to have a tough time in this series.
He's going to have a tough time. He needs to get some ice baths in. He needs the steroid shots, whatever he needs, because it's going to be a long series.
But just like, what Dallas's role players just did to OKC, I don't really expect that against the Wolves.
Oh, I don't either.
So to me, again, the Wolves should have a significant overall advantage.
Mm-hmm.
But again, this Dallas duo is really hard to guard. Yeah,
and on the flip side, in Minnesota's favor, nobody on Dallas can stay with Edwards at all. I mean, I guess Josh Green will try and maybe rough him up a little bit because physically he's probably the only one strong enough to stay with Edwards. But they can't stay with Edwards, and the bigs are just a little bit too wild to deal with Towns and Gobert to me. I mean, I think Towns is just a little too versatile for Lively to stay with.
Yeah.
Without getting in foul trouble.
I agree hypothetically, but like again, it's like PJ Washington just really impressed me defensively. Is he going to do that again? Yeah. Like, is that something that maybe I'm sleeping on? Like, maybe he really could guard?
I like PJ Washington on Towns. I think that's a pretty solid matchup.
He's a little small, but he's mobile enough.
He's strong though. He's built. He's a strong guy.
There's so many matchups in this series that favor either side.
Derrick Jones Jr. is barbecue chicken for Towns. He should be. And if Derrick Jones Jr. is on Towns and Towns doesn't expose him, Shaq is going to be dogging him at halftime. Dogging
100%. 100%. And
him.
Cat, please, bro, the fouls. Why? They're so dumb.
Yeah, they are.
Like I don't even understand what he's going for the fucking reach. Like he's literally like, I got the ball here. There's no chance of you getting the ball, and he's going for the steal.
He does a lot. Yeah,
it's so frustrating, and bro. Luka is gonna abuse that. Kyrie abuses that.
And him like grabbing around the hips and stuff like that.
Yeah. PJ Washington's ready for all that.
He doesn't. Towns doesn't switch his feet well, like to switch direction. He always gets caught with his feet in the wrong place.
Straight line machine. Like he'll go straight line, and you got to take the offensive foul. You just got to take it.
Yeah. Exciting. But who do you have, and how many games? This is a tough one.
I'm gonna pick Mavs in 7.
The Mavs in 7.
I'm sticking with my theory that the best offensive team is gonna win the West. I just was wrong on who the best offensive team is, and I might be wrong again. Dallas might. Maybe Minnesota's defense is that good, but Dallas's spacing is really good. Like I really like how they space it out, even when they're stagnant. They have so much. Kyrie and Luka have so much room to operate. I mean, they got Hardaway Jr. and like Jaden Hardy got room to operate. And Kid has such a good feel for when to play those guys big minutes, when to sub them out early. I'm trusting their shot selection in this one.
I mentioned early in the series that I think Dallas would have a better chance against either the Nuggets or the Minnesota, but particularly against Minnesota because I think Kyrie and Luka are very, like I said, the defense really doesn't matter to them. It's going to have to be a team effort. But all the picking up full court and swallowing up the drives and all that stuff, that's not going to work on Kyrie and Luka. It just isn't going to make that big of a difference in whether you win or lose because someone else is going to play good. I'm going to go Mavs I'll say Mavs in 6.
Okay.
I'll go 6. But I like the Timberwolves a lot. I picked the Timberwolves in the last one. So I'm just to be clear, I'm not saying
I'm picking against them both times. I like them a lot too.
Yeah, I don't know.
I'm so excited, dude. We're gonna have a new champion for the 6th year in a row, I think.
And 2 new finals. Oh well, maybe. Yeah. New finals. Yeah.
Boston is a mainstay in the conference finals at this point. We'll see if they can get to the next round.
Yeah. Now you know what? I'm going Minnesota. Yes. I thought about it. I had to think about it a little more. I'm going Minnesota. I'm gonna stick with Minnesota in 6.
6. Okay.
I don't think it's going to 7. Minnesota in 6, but Dallas is going to beat the crap out of them in one of those games. It's going to be one really bad loss. But
I'm telling you now, I'm way more excited to watch the individual games for the West than I am. The East is going to have some disgusting blowouts. I already know.
Yeah, I think the East is going to have some games that are over at halftime. Yeah.
Hopefully not too many.
Yeah. I think that's it for us for now. We'll be back after 2 games of these.
We'll get a little more finals. In depth. I mean, we're looking at the top 4. The contenders are as clear as day.
Yeah. Very, very, very exciting.
All had to earn their spot for the most part. I mean,
Absolutely.
Boston coming back, I guess, is kind of earning it.
Yeah. Boston, you were right what you said earlier. Boston had an easy road. All the injuries, just they had an easy one. But they losing Porzingis for the first 2 games of this series is going to be rough, size wise for them. But I don't know. We'll see what happens. Shout out to the WNBA has started. By the way, I have WNBA League Pass, so I will be reporting on that at some point. But priorities right now. No disrespect, but playoffs. It's the playoffs.
We're getting to contender time. I mean, the second round is like the second round really gets to the smaller details of these teams, and you're really starting to see the standouts. And I love it, dude. Every moment.
Yeah, me too. Been one of the more exciting playoffs that I can remember. Actually, a lot of parity in this one.
Yeah.
As always, thank you for listening. Enjoy the playoffs, and we'll talk to you guys soon.